Hey there, it's me Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the description. The room went dark, my heart was beating at a tremendous rate of knots. Here I was in bed with George in a strange house. Wouldn't Amanda go spare if she could see this now, and she would go even more spare if she knew the truth. I lay awake, the minutes ticked past, 15, 20, maybe I could hear a slight snore from George. You awake? I asked. Silence. I snuggled down a bit further, the minutes ticked by. He turned, an arm dropped over my middle back, his hand dangling just above my chest. I froze at first. I moved back a bit, his hand dropping further over my front. I edged back a bit more, my bum coming into contact with his groin area. A slight stir, then it grew. He had an erection, you know, the kind guys get in their sleep. George, you awake? I asked again. Another snore. I edged back a bit more, the erection now firmly against me. I snuggled in and shut my eyes. My eyes fluttered open as the early morning sun crept its way across the room. It took me a few seconds to get my bearings. You all know that feeling, waking up in a strange room. Memories of last night flooded back, the party, George drinking, and us ending up here at Aunt Karen's. George's arm was still flopped across my waist. It didn't seem that he had moved an inch all night. What time is it? I thought. I stretched out my arm and reached George's mobile. I lifted it and switched it on, the backlight appearing as it did with Melissa's face as his wallpaper. It was just gone 8:30. The phone beeped. I looked at it. 8 missed calls. I pressed the button, all of them from Amanda. Oh God, she'll be going spare by this time, I thought. Once more I snuggled in. Yeah. There it was, another erection nudging into my thong-covered ass. What is it with guys' erections last thing at night at first thing in the morning? It seemed like ages since I had experienced one. Indeed, even that passionate kiss from Debbie a while back had only encouraged a mild stirring in the loins. A slight rap at the door. Amanda, George, you awake? George stirred a little, grunted a bit, and woke. Shock must have taken over when he realized his arm was draped over me. He sat bolt upright. Whether he was immediately aware of the erection I don't know, but he rubbed his eyes and ran his fingers through high tousled hair. What time is it? He asked. Just around 8:45, I replied. Shit, I'm supposed to be meeting Pete in half an hour. We had a job on. He partially stepped out of bed. Another rap at the door. Amanda, George, you awake? We are Karen, I said in a loud voice. The door opened. She stepped inside. George probably became aware of the erection at that point. Grabbing his trousers, he made sure he turned his back before pulling them up. I need a shower and to call Pete. Okay, if I take a shower, he said, turning to face Aunt Karen. Yeah. That's fine, dear. Water has been on for ages. Should be nice and hot, she said. I sat up, pulling the covers up to just above my breasts. I glanced over at the camp bed. Where's Melissa? I asked. Downstairs having her breakfast. I popped my head in earlier. You two seemed so comfortable, so I let you lie, she said. A blush started to cross George's face as he passed Aunt Karen and headed out the door. Okay, I'll just get dressed and join you, I said. You want any breakfast? She asked. Some toast and coffee will do me fine, I said. Okay, see you downstairs, and with that she left. I got up and changed into the spare set of clothes I had packed for an emergency. By the time I was dressed, George was back out of the shower and calling Pete on his mobile. Pete, it's George. Look, mate, we had to stay over last night. You okay? To kick it off, he asked as I picked up my makeup bag and headed to the bathroom to touch up my face. 20 minutes later, we were all seated downstairs drinking some coffee as George looked at his watch every few seconds. I drained the last of my cup and got up. Come on, babes, I said to Melissa. Daddy needs to get back. I walked over and gripped her hand as she toddled after me to go and pack away our stuff. 15 minutes later, we were back at Mum's and pulling away from her driveway as her and Ashley waved us off. Dad was still in bed nursing his hangover, so another meeting had been avoided. As we pulled out onto the main road, George said. Sorry about last night. What the drinking? I asked in that tone that women can use to make disapproval apparent. Well, yeah. And this morning as well me draped over you, he said, stuttering a bit on his words. That's okay, I said, a slight smile crossing my face as I turned to face out the window. Good was all he said, and the rest of the journey descended into silence. Back home, Debbie was on the phone less than 30 minutes after we got back home. George had shot off to help Pete and no doubt groveled to Amanda. Melissa was busy tucking into her lunch as I spoke to Debbie on the phone. So how did it go? She asked. Fine, except for me being rumbled by my grandma because Melissa ran over shouting "Ax" at me. There was laughter in the background. What did you do? She asked. I just spoke to her, explained. She wasn't happy, but I asked her to keep quiet for the night and speak to Mum about it. And did she? Yeah, I replied as I lit a cigarette. So how come you stayed over? She asked. Well, Dad got George drinking and I wouldn't let him drive, so we had to stay with Aunt Karen. So she had plenty room then? Well, yes and no, I said, hesitating slightly. So where did you all sleep? Well, she had a spare camp bed, so Melissa slept there. Me and George had to share. There was a silence. You slept with him? I could feel my face go red as she spoke. I took a draw on the cigarette. Well, not exactly, we only shared the same bed. Jesus, Amanda would hit the ceiling if she knew that, she said, laughter overtaking her words. It's not funny, he had 8 missed calls from her on his mobile this morning. If she will be happy, I can see her face now. If she knew you were impersonating her, she would be even madder. It gets a bit worse than that, I said hesitantly. How come? Well, during the party, when Dad was drunk, he insisted on a kiss between me and George. At first it was just a peck on the cheek, but then he insisted on a bit more, so we had a fully fledged snog. That was it. Debbie dissolved into laughter. It was a good while before I could calm her down and get some more sense out of her. Alex, look, it's ages since me and Gavin had any company over here, and it's our wedding anniversary on Friday. Why don't you and George come over for dinner? I don't know, maybe that would be pushing it a bit, I replied. Well, ask him, it's been ages since him and Gavin had a good chat, she persisted. Okay, I'll ask him. Good, I'll ring you tomorrow. Now I need to go to the loo. All that laughing has my bladder bursting. See you, babes. Okay, speak to you soon. I left the subject for a day or so before approaching George. So one night over dinner I asked, are you seeing Amanda this weekend? Why? Oh, nothing really, I replied. Only on Saturday. She's going out with her mates from work on Friday, he added. I was in. It's just that Debbie and Gavin invited us over for dinner on Friday. It's their anniversary. I don't know if that would be such a good idea. Oh, go on, I said, adding, Debbie said it's been ages since you and Gavin had a good old chat. Yeah, that's true. You know, we used to play football together in the same team when we were younger. Well then, lots to catch up on. I suppose. Okay, tell her it's a date, he said, picking up his plate and walking across the kitchen. He deposited it in the sink. I'm just going to say good night to Melissa, he added. Okay, no problem, I'll wash up, I said. Next morning I called Debbie first thing. We're on for dinner, I said. Good going, girl, that means shopping trip tomorrow. I could hear the excitement in her voice. Why shopping? I asked. Well, you need a new dress for dinner. I laughed, saying, Debbie, you're incorrigible. Yeah, I know, but you love me really. See you tomorrow, babes. As planned, Debbie had turned up early Wednesday and drove us to Glasgow for another shopping expedition. If there's one thing Debbie does well, it's shopping, and as usual she dragged me around stores looking for an outfit. Finally satisfied that she had found me the right dress, we set about finding something for her as well as shirts and ties for Gavin and George. Oh, and making sure Melissa was not left out a couple of things for her as well. Saturday came and with Melissa dressed and ready, I set about getting myself ready for our dinner. Once I had done my makeup, something I was now becoming particularly skilled with, experimenting with colors and shades. I pulled open the wardrobe. Looking inside, I was amazed by how much clothes I had now accumulated, but then that's Debbie and shopping for you. I found the dress that she had insisted I buy. It was a tight red affair made from some sort of shiny fabric. It wasn't latex or silk or anything like that, but it felt lovely to wear against my skin, so cool and refreshing, I thought as I pulled it over my curves and then zipped up the back. Picking up a pair of 4-inch heeled patent shoes with a slight platform, I slipped them onto my feet. I crossed back to the dresser and sprayed some Asadi's perfume liberally over my neck and cleavage before spraying some more on my wrists. The smell of the scent hung heavy in the room. Dropping the bottle into a small red clutch bag, I put in my cigarettes and lighter and my compact and lipstick. Leaving the room, I descended the stairs, my heels clicking on the wooden slats as I acme down. Downstairs, I found George and Melissa waiting for me. "You look nice," he said, looking up from Melissa. I stopped dead in my tracks. Did he just say what I thought he said? I paused. Thanks, shall we go then?" I said. "Yeah, let's go. Come on, Mel, we're off to Auntie Deb's for the night." Devi, Melissa called in her high-pitched voice as George took her hand and we left the house. Please subscribe my channel for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.